So I know this is coming a little bit out of left field, and not typically how we operate around here. But I did want to take a minute to address something that we have actually already talked about a lot. So this is somewhat unnecessary, but I still feel like it needs to be broached in like an organized, not off the cuff way, because it's important. It's important. And so after three streams, including the absolute marathon slog that was last night, we completed the second case in Danganronpa, which I have loved this game. Doing this with Bird has been tremendous, and I've enjoyed every moment of it. Even when we forget how the characters' voices sound, and I forgot how the final mini game is supposed to be played, but we made it regardless. Sleep deprivation be damned. But after those streams, we cleared the second case, which has not aged well. And we warned you guys that it hadn't aged well. We warned you guys there would be some objectionable content, and I just kind of want to close the lid on it so that we can move forward and never speak of it again. But kind of the two elephants in the room, even though again we did address them ad nauseum, were the depictions of Toko's mental health and the whole story between Chihiro and Mondo. Now, obviously, regarding the former, some people did make mention of it during the stream. Obviously, we tried to draw a fine line between spoilers and giving people sufficient warning, but you know the kind of ultimate issue with that, not to intentionally use the word ultimate, but kind of the ultimate pressing issue with that is that, as opposed to saying, "Oh, she has an alter," or leaving it vague, they explicitly say that she has DID, and that's why there's the whole Toko genocide Jack thing. Is that she has DID, and this is not at all an accurate or fair portrayal of people with DID. Um, as somebody who, not to shatter the illusion too much, though we have done that before, uh, a lot of my previous professional experience outside of here is in mental health. It's what I went to school for, it's what my degree's in. And it's very important to recognize that there are people with conditions that do not get represented fairly or in good faith in the media. And this was one of them. There are people out there with DID. There are people who live with it, and it manifests and affects them very differently than the way it was depicted. And again, that's nothing to take away strictly from the creator, the writers, Toko's VA, or Toko, or the Genocide Jack persona. I think that Toko and Jack are fantastic characters. I think that Jack is very on point for the franchise that they're in. Um, but no, and so I definitely want to explicitly say, not that I think any of you will, but please don't take that as an indication or any sort of reference as for what the experience of people with DID is. These people do have a serious condition, and it profoundly affects their ability to live their lives. Some people manage better than others, and if it is something that occupied any space for you, or you think about it at all, I would encourage you to do a little research, and kind of get a better idea of what this is experientially. And we will continue to see Jack throughout the playthrough in Toko as well, but just to go ahead and say this information is not accurate, it's not representative of reality, not that any part of this has been, but I want to give attribution where it's due and say that this is an inaccurate and unfair portrayal of people that do have a serious medical condition and deserve respect and understanding. Now, kind of the larger of the two problems, and the one that we have less subtly addressed, I think, both in previews and in just actual conversation, because, here we go is a common thing that we said last night, was the issue of gendered writing. And we have talked about that in passing before. Obviously, there was some debate, and there has been ongoing discourse after the Bridget announcement for Guilty Gear, because it was kind of a analogous situation with Bridget in that franchise. But of course, I explicitly mean the plot twist rather, that Chihiro's a boy, or was a mab specifically. It's hard, I think, to put it in a certain way that is, there's not evidence to justify, I think, taking a certain stance. Aside from, there are certain tropes that were prolific in that time, that were definitely more allowable and open due to a lack of understanding or lack of willingness to understand people in the queer community. There are a lot of people who, well, I don't necessarily a lot of people. I don't want to create an expectation, but there's definitely somebody out there who has gone on a path, at least tangentially similar to what Chihiro went on and found an identity. Now, I don't want to say that, obviously it's a horrible misattribution to be like, oh yeah, no, there's some boy out there who realized he couldn't lift, and then it's like, nope, it's just going to be easier to be a girl, because that's just silly. And if that is your experience, and that's how you came to be who you are now, then more power to you. But, if it had been written in a better way, if it had been that, even something as simple as this was an identity that they felt they could comfortably inhabit, or any changes, really, that would have done it, anything, if it would have been a matter of femininity or a matter of self, image or anything like that. But obviously it's very problematic and offensive to assume that, hey, this person is physically weak and petite and small, and so it just makes more sense for them to do this. That's simply, it's not realistic. It's not. And it kind of is, for a multitude of reasons that I don't want to pretend to be an expert on or an authority on, problematic. People come to their identities, transition, and transform themselves in a variety of different ways. Nobody's path is the same. And I think that had it been released 10 years later, they might have written it in a different way. I think it could have been written in a different way. And obviously, everything that falls from there, Chihiro's identity crisis, their interaction with Mondo, Mondo's response, the whole case, it's a clusterfuck. There's no nicer way to say it. It's a clusterfuck. And again, I love Chihiro and Mondo as characters. Mondo especially. I unironically love Mondo. I have I have to admit, I have a soft spot for like the manly men making manly promises, archetype of folks. They have their place, and I think again he fills a very specific niche in the cast that he does well. And the other parts of the story, I think that's the thing that me personally, why I'm willing to pontificate it to such a degree, is Chihiro wanting to improve themselves, Mondo feeling inadequate in the face of something like that, Mondo wanting to hide his secret, Mondo wanting to honor this promise he made with another person. These are all within character, they're all, respectable plot points. And I think that for me, as somebody who really enjoys good writing and a good plot, or at least innovative stuff, I think that if they had executed it better, it would have stood the test of time. And that's one thing that I hate, is it took this key moment and it's marred. by better understanding and context. And definitely don't take that to mean that, like, I obviously have grudges against the community for wanting better representation, because that's definitely not it. It's more of, I wish that the knowledge had been there and it had been approached in a more delicate and appropriate way, either shifting it more towards, a personality thing where it's like simply a matter of, it could have even been something of, they felt this was more convenient, as opposed to, this is how I'm going to disguise my insecurity. Though that itself may probably not be a good suggestion. I just feel that the whole situation could have been more or less unchanged if it had been written better. And, we had mentioned in passing, and we mentioned, I think, to some degree after the playthrough before, after the Metal Wolf playthrough, I think it was, because it was Metal Wolf and then Zal, that we were not going to play this game during Pride, and this is explicitly why. Is we did not want to, put out a stream, a show, and kind of proliferate a product that misrepresents a community that, faces significant challenges and hurdles in the world just for trying to live their lives. And that's very disingenuous and just not Gucci of us, to kind of use lighter language for it. And I know that this is a long post. I know that, again, it's not something we do often. But I did want to take a moment to formally address it. But that sequence is over. Case 2 has been solved. Chihiro and Mondo are no longer with us. Spoilers for people who have not been following or unfamiliar, I apologize. But Case 2 is behind us, and we will deal with Toko and Jack moving forward. But thank you for your patience and your respect of us trying to show respect to other people. And that's going to be all for now. But thank you guys for sticking with us. Thank you for your support. And we hope to see more of you, hopefully in a lighter and more pleasant context. So thanks, and until then.